Welcome to 10 Things we love about Bioshock. An interesting choice. It was kind of decided by you. Timing was perfect actually, because I currently am playing through Bioshock on Xbox One, the Bioshock collection. Whatever it is it HD or just updated? I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I think it's just HD.
Yeah, nothing special because it doesn't look any particularly better.
But yeah, that's a really good. It's still really fun to go back and play it.
Well, it is. I'm enjoying it because it's been a good few years since the first game as well. And when we kind of discussed this, it was like, okay, should we do one? Or then it was like, well, how do you do each individual game? So it was kind of decided we'd do the Bioshock trilogy and DLC. So the Bioshock package, everything that currently exists for Bioshock. So this is the love thing, really.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time, which is like a lot of the games we talk about on here.
And, yeah.
You know, in this room here, we're surrounded by a lot of merchandise, Bioshock merchandise. Got Bioshock tattoos, so bit of a fanboy.
Oh yeah, your thing is Liam Ratcher's Lost Fisher, so it's there in his actual name.
Inspired my gamer tag, yep.
Absolutely. Well then, I suspect we're probably gonna more on the love side of video here, because of course we've got 10 things we hate about Bioshock to come too. But I think in the love one, we're more likely to double up, maybe on only a handful, but the handful ones will be fairly obvious.
I think we're likely to clash probably on some of the more obvious ones.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with an obvious one then.
Okay.
Which I suspect you might have as well. And this is specifically Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite, not number 2, because I don't think it has it.
Oh, you're doing 1 point about both.
Well, the description what I'm about to describe applies to Bioshock 1 and Infinite rather than 2, because 2 didn't have this. And that is the Welcome to Rapture, Welcome to Columbia introductions. And we're talking from Rapture, the very first moment as you first see the city, as you move through the sea.
Different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. The sweat of your brow, Rapture can become your city as well.
We're talking about Columbia when you first go high in the air and see the city there. I think they're two of the greatest introductions to anything.
The hell?
Make yourself ready, Pilgrim. The bindings are there as a safeguard.
No, God damn it!
Ascension. Ascension in the count of 5. Count of 4.
No.
3, 2, 1.
No!
Ascension. Ascension.
Just stay calm.
5,000 feet. 10,000 feet. 15,000 feet. Hallelujah.
And I still got chills playing it again recently. I still got chills with the Welcome to Rapture thing, from the moment through the lighthouse to going through the sub, the bathysphere, and you see the city, and the whale swims between it. It's incredible, and Columbia's beauty from the sky.
Well, my first point was the opening of the original Bioshock.
Yep.
I think that's obvious when you think back about Bioshock and your journey throughout the whole game. Obviously, you think about that opening. You know, when you crash and you're in the water, and that whole fiery scene of the plane crash, and you make your way up the steps of the lighthouse, and it's just really this eerie lighthouse in the middle of the sea. and it's really creepy, and yeah, just a profound mystery of the whole thing is really like awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing at that point. You have literally no clue about anything. I mean, it's one of those again that I know I played it once with fresh eyes without knowing anything about it, but I can't remember what my feelings were. And the first time you enter the lighthouse and you see the bronze statue of Andrew Ryan with the sign "No men, no gods." What is it? No gods.
No gods or kings only, man.
That's right, and that sign and a banner.
Yeah, I don't think you really like when you first play it. You don't really like acknowledge it as much as you do when you go back. You really like look at the details and how, you really pay attention to what's going on and like really feel the moment more than you probably when you first played it. I agree. Like you're gonna say right when you first played it.
Yeah.
You didn't really like pay that much attention to it. It didn't seem like you have no idea what's going on. Of course.
Yeah, you don't know who Andrew Ryan is at that stage.
Yeah, and then when you get in the bathysphere, and the music starts changing and playing, and it's like just super mysterious, and you hear Andrew Ryan's like his whole monologue, and then Rapture appears in the middle of the sea, and like it's just I love it.
Do you think Infinite's introduction to Columbia was as impactful? Like, can you remember that as clearly?
Definitely, like
Okay.
I remember that really clearly, specifically because of like, it's obviously the ascent rather than the descent.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, really like an interesting aspect. And I specifically remember the whole part where you float down and the music plays, and this is a really nice piece of music I really like.
Yeah.
It's called Lighter Than Air.
I know the one. Yeah.
I really like it, and it's just beautiful, bright city in the clouds, and it's such a contrast to Rapture, and I think that's what they did really well with the games.
I think you're right. It is like almost in the complete opposite. So right, we doubled up already. So go with your one now, then your first one or second one.
Okay, my second one is I love how creepy and yet adorable the little sisters are.
Okay, right, cool. I don't have anything about this.
Well, their whole relationship with the big daddies is kind of equal parts cute, but kind of terrifying at once.
Oh yeah, the scary looking girls. When you first when your first early indications are always from distance when they're walking with Big Daddy and so on to your eventual first real dealing with them.
There's something really like endearing about them and the relationship they have with Big Daddy.
Of course.
And like, the dialogue that the little sisters use and stuff like "Come on, Mr. Bubbles" and things like that. And
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel. I can see light coming from his belly. Wait a minute, he's still breathing. It's all right. I know he'll be an angel soon.
they seem so sweet, and obviously like, when you find out about how they were created and stuff, it's obviously really dark, how they were like genetically modified and, be psychologically bonded to the Big Daddies. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I just think that is, I love that whole, wolf in sheep's clothing type feel they have to them in a way. Like they don't appear like dangerous, and then them on their own they're not. They're like when Big Daddy dies, they're like
crying,
they shrivel up and
crying,
cry like little girls and stuff. But
in fact, your first introduction to a little sister is actually when you're knocked out unconscious and one comes over you to harvest your Adam, and she says, you're not alive, and that's the first clue you get to kind of see what they're like. Mm-hmm. But I haven't got anything to do with little sisters, but I suppose it kind of ties into it, so I'll use this one. And it's every fight with a Big Daddy in Bioshock 1 in particular felt like a massive undertaking. Like, if you were trying to say deal with every Big Daddy in a specific area and say it had 3 that it was saying is, you never went in and saw one and went, I'm going to start shooting straight away. You scoped out the area, you picked up as much ammo as possible, you worked out where you could possibly hide from it in the middle of the battle. It took such strategy to take one on. That's fucking incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was always a massive undertaking to take one on, and if you won the battle, you feel like you've been through like a war, because the minute you shoot a Big Daddy and their eyes change from green to yellow to red, and then they charge at you and like bash you into a wall or something like that. Yeah, you realise you made a big mistake. And
they never stop. Like, they never stop. Like, in the sense that they'll bash you and they'll carry on shooting you and they'll keep attacking either until you die or until you fucking leg it or beat them.
But even trying to run away and like hide is really difficult. They're so determined. Yeah.
They certainly, I think, it's one of the best things about it. One thing I love is how they really made those battles feel important. You know? Yeah.
All right. This... Maybe you could save one for later, but I'll just throw it out there now because it's a big one. I'm sure you probably have it as well.
Yeah, it might be my number 2.
Yeah, well, I didn't really place them in any particular order.
Oh, not in order, but I mean the order I wrote.
It was the first thing that came to my head when you think of Bioshock, and it's the "Would you kindly" reveal.
I've got 3 words written. Would you kindly?
And yeah, it's such an amazing reveal, you know. And it's not just that. It's revealed that Atlas is Frank Fontaine, and then you find out that Andrew Ryan is revealed to be Jack's father.
Yep.
And yeah, the game has so many excellent twists and reveals. You know, I would really just give anything to just erase it all and like play through it again, kind of thing.
It's often cited as it's in the top like 3 or 5, or often number 1 best video game twists. Because I don't think there's anyone who would be telling the truth would say that they saw that coming, because the way it's done with Atlas and the way he talks to you, and when you do get to look back and play it again, knowing it, even when he says things, it's so naturally done.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing about any twist that is that effective, is even playing back through it, it's like another experience in itself, because you notice things you didn't notice before. Like you kind of can notice Alice's voice maybe not sound right at certain points.
His accent sounds a bit like
forced, almost as if it's obviously intentionally done that way.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's such a clever reveal. Just probably can never happen again, because at the time it happened, the internet obviously existed, but it just wasn't the way it is now. So like mainstream with Twitter and everything, you know. So now like we'd just be spoiled to shit, like straight up. But back then it kind of felt like it wasn't, like it was like a closed knit kind of thing.
You say that, but then how did we manage to avoid? Because Infinite has obviously a fairly hefty twist in the tale as well. I don't remember finding that out beforehand.
That's a bit harder to describe. I mean, someone can tell you that spoiler Booker is Comstock, but it doesn't really explain anything.
I would more say the lighthouse situation, you know.
Yeah.
But no, you are right. It's not so much easily summed up in a line, is it? Whereas Bioshock, you can sum up a line. I mean, would you kindly is code for mind control.
Yeah, but that's what's so great about the Infinite twist, is that it's so layered. Like you can't really spoil it in like a sentence, or just would you kindly 3 words, like that can spoil it for somebody.
Well, as we brought it up, that will be my next one then, which is the ending to Bioshock Infinite. The reveal of that I actually ended up loving more than I did Bioshock's Would You Kindly, purely because of how layered it was and what it meant in regards to... I desperately wanted, and throughout Bioshock Infinite, never really got enough of it, but I desperately wanted this connection to Rapture, because that was the place I loved the most, and you were looking for it, and so on. And to get it in the way that we did, particularly with what followed with Burial at Sea, DLC and stuff like that, and to see how it was all linked, and to realise...
Yeah, the complexity, it's one of mine anyway, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But the complexity of it just still blows me away, you know. The reveal of Booker being Comstock, but like I said, that by itself, it doesn't like, there's no context to that, just that alone. You know, there's other little things like how he has that AD on his hand, and you don't know what that means until the end, until you find out it means Anaduit, you know.
Yep.
And the entire premise of it always being a lighthouse, that whole thing, it's mind-blowing, really. The different possibilities and versions, and... Yeah, it just blows my mind.
I always remember the sort of sequence that you get to sort of walk and you just see these infinite lighthouses, and it creates such imagination. Even though obviously it's, you know, textures for a game and all that, but you're thinking, what does that lighthouse mean? Which does that lighthouse mean? What does that apply to? What world does that apply to? You know?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Nightmare Before Christmas, where you see all the different doors in the forest, and you know your imagination goes wild about what's in each door, what's in the Easter door, and things like that. And you wonder what that could possibly be like, and it's like that in Bioshock as well. Yeah, you're like, what can that reality be like in there? Who knows? You know. I'd love to find out one day, maybe, but.
All right, you do one now then.
Okay, my next one is talking specifically about the first game again. I love just the visual style of it. You know, the Art Deco design of Rapture,
steampunky,
and the late 50s time period. Like it's just so perfect, you know.
Yeah, I agree. It's a visual treat, you know, in the sense of even like I love that we came to Rapture in the game, the first game, when it was beginning to fall apart. Hadn't quite reached it, but you know, every tunnel felt like things were falling apart. It was flooded in areas, fires were here and all that, you know. And so like you almost couldn't quite picture what it was in its heyday. What was Rapture like before the New Year's Eve party, before, you know, Atlas and his troops and stuff like that? What happened before splicers really became a thing? What was life like when Rapture first started and hope was there and everyone believed they had this thing? You know, we never get to see that. You get hints of it in some DLCs where you kind of get a bit more normal things, but you never got to experience it. We got there and you get this visual style of this steampunky world that's collapsing, you know? And, you know, Bioshock 2 touched upon it as well, including having a part of it collapse in it, and stuff like that, and you see that and stuff like that. So it's
that's just what's so great about it, is it creates so many mysteries. It's like the whole mystery of finding like a boat at sea where all the crew has disappeared, or like a space station where all the crew disappeared. It's just you're completely just wondering how it got from being a fully functioning city and to where people were living happily, like happy lives presumably, and then to no one being there, like you said, it being completely dilapidated and falling apart. And just, what happened?
What happened, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, cool. I'm going to jump into a different area then. We're going to talk Bioshock 2. It's not on this list much, and it's really more about me more than anything else. I love Bioshock 2's multiplayer, and there's a reason being. So basically, it's very rare that I'm really good at a multiplayer game. Like, if I can jump into public sessions and be good at it, I can count the games on one hand. It's that kind of thing. I just can't. You know, I really have patience enough to get good at stuff. But certain games came along that I found myself adapting to brilliantly. One of them would be Assassin's Creed. Back when Brotherhood first introduced multiplayer, I loved it because I found I was brilliant at it purely by playing the bloody game properly, and stuff like that. Bioshock 2's multiplayer, I was amazing at.
Well, I've got something to admit, man. You might not like it, but I've never played the Bioshock 2 multiplayer.
Wow.
I never played it because I missed the boat on like it being populated with people, and it just came far too late too. I don't know why, but like I like Bioshock 2 was out for quite a while. I never got to that like as quick after the first game as I probably should have. I'm not sure why. I just don't think like I remember hearing that much about it. I don't think it got like as much, you know, advertising and things like that. But
like anything, like ultimately it wasn't needed, it was tacked on. And the modes as well, like it needed a certain amount of players to play, which is always an issue if you can't stop 1v1 and things like that.
Well, it's an issue with games like that where conventionally you don't expect them to have a multiplayer, and like it's Bioshock multiplayer just doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right in the same sentence, but
and it wasn't like it was great.
But why is it that sometimes when that happens, when games that don't conventionally so you expect them to have multiplayer, like Assassin's Creed, isn't it often like that they turn out to be actually quite good? Yeah, I think so too. I think it gets a lot of hate just because people think it wasn't needed. But for me, it's like, man, it was alright. It was good, you know. God, what was the game where it was like time travel and used a wrist thing to... Like I said, I didn't play it, so I can't help you. No, not Bioshock. This is another game that had a great multiplayer that no one played because it required a certain amount of people. What, Time Shift was it? No, not Time Shift, another one, but it was Russian... Singularity. Singularity multiplayer was bloody good. That was actually good, yeah. The monsters versus the humans. That's right, yeah. Like that. Yeah, that was actually decent. But again, you needed like a minimum 6 people to start and stupid shit like that. That's where it always runs into issues. Yeah. You need a large player base. But yeah, like, I find that as well with multiplayer games that I feel fondly about is ones I'm normally like quite good at. It's something about that. Yeah. Obviously, if you're bad at a game, you're not going to think about it in the best way. But no, I agree. Okay, go on then. Okay, we've touched on it, but I love the Burial at Sea DLC.
Last chance, pet.
Let her go!
Get me the ace. I'll wrap the brat in a silk ribbon.
It's a bad place.
From here on, it's only gonna get worse.
And how much worse is up to you.
I'm not you, Booker.
And yet, here you are, settling the debt.
Didn't your mom ever teach you not to put your faith in strange men?
Just give me the girl.
The girl means nothing. But you, love, you mean the world.
I will never escape it. Exploited, exploited. It's like a wheel of blood spinning round and round.
I give you a choice. Work for me or die without.
Okay, I've got this as well.
Yeah. It's absolutely essential to play, in my opinion, if you want to fully appreciate and understand the whole story of Bioshock 1 and Infinite. And the way in which it smartly leads up to the first game is just fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. It's required playing. You can say, oh, well, that's bullshit because it shouldn't be in DLC. But ultimately, this came so long after the release. And I think they kind of maybe did it as well as much to try and explain Infinite's ending a bit more. And to also really take Infinite and Bioshock and put them together, like properly, like link them perfectly together. Because there were a lot of threads left over from the ending of Infinite. You know, people were accusing of plot holes and all that sorts of thing. And this really, I think it tied up a lot of the threads really well.
And not only that as well, people, we got to go back to Rapture, but we got to go Rapture in a different way.
Exactly, what you were just talking before, how you wanted to, you wanted to kind of see Rapture in more of like a living state, and that does give us that, like, briefly. And yeah, I mean, you got to play as Elizabeth. She's a really great character, and I had the whole stealth mechanic, which was an interesting thing.
It was something different.
Yeah, she had the crossbow and stuff like that. It was just like, I wonder if that was like meant to be maybe a game, by itself, or if it started out as a DLC, or if it ended up becoming that.
Well, obviously, it was split into 2 parts, and it was quite big both, but yeah, very possibly.
Well, because the close down of Irrational Games happened quite soon after, so maybe they kind of had to rush it
and just get it out.
Get it out as a DLC rather. But either way, I love it, and I think it. You can play Bioshock 1 and Infinite and think like you've got an idea of how it goes in your head, but you really haven't until you play Brrraaains A Head, because it just explains so many things about like how Jack really got to Rapture, and how important he is in the whole scheme of the whole story.
Yeah, I think it's a great one. That's why I have it too. It absolutely had to be in there. And as we kind of touched upon, I'll bring her up now then. Characters in Bioshock's not been its strongest point at some, you have some, but you've talking about an overall cast, it's not really loads and loads and loads, but when they got it right, and not just Elizabeth as a whole, but I'm going to refer to specific points about Elizabeth, and mainly it's Elizabeth's wonder of things, that I think is what I really love. It's not just Elizabeth as a character, it's the fact that when she first, at least at the start, how you almost try and see things through her eyes. The beach scene, her wonder, her dancing, but also the moments when she's sad and things. It's like she's realizing just like this is all because of her and this and that, whatever. And she sings the song. Yeah, she's just such an innocent person. She's been sheltered away in this tower, and she comes out and sees the real world, and it's. She kind of sees it through like almost like a child's eyes, where it's like the beach scene is perfect because she sees it so bright and beautiful. But that like in life, obviously. There are points like that, but then there are obviously like darker, seedier corners and stuff that she eventually realizes there's a lot more. Yeah. Like.
Hey, miss. Miss. Could you just... Hey, I need you to stop. Hey, Miss Elizabeth.
Hello. Oh, this is wonderful. Oh, come dance with me, Mr.
I don't dance. Come on, let's go.
Why? What could be better than this?
How about Paris?
Paris? I don't understand. How could we get there?
That's where that airship's going, but if you want to stay and dance, we can...
No, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go right now.
Dark things going on, but yeah, actually on my one I have Elizabeth specifically as a character. I think she's a really fascinating character, and I'd love to see her explored further in maybe in a future game even, because with the many different possibilities, she explains that she is a constant in every reality. Yeah. So that could be done, and I just feel like there's a lot of untapped potential with her character, especially with her unique abilities. Being able to the whole tear ability. And I just think could do a lot more there. But I just think she's a really great character. Yeah, I agree, 100%. Go on, and how many more you got? I have I love the audio logs in the game. Oh, okay, yeah, great one. Mainly because collectibles are really overdone in games most of the time. But the biggest issue with them, and I have 2 articles on the site about pointless collectibles. Of course you do, yeah. They can check out, and I don't like pointless collectibles basically. And Bioshock made the collectible not pointless. They made them essential to pick up because they give you very important plot details, and that may lead into a negative that I have in my negative list. Right, yeah. But I agree with you. It's not on mine, but I agree with you in the sense that the audio logs. I disagree in slightly. I don't think they're essential picking up, but I think they give you so much more insight into characters and the story that to get the full picture, that if you really want that picture, you kind of have to get them all, which. I guess as well. Already in my head, I'm like, and there's a negative to that. There is, obviously, but I guess that'll be in the bad side of things. All right, my next one is it's another character, so I'm going to keep it straightforward. Andrew Ryan, and it's Andrew Ryan, simplest put. From the very moment he first speaks to you, the man commands power. Rapture's falling down around him, yet he still seems to be in a position to demand and command and lead, and he constantly has this overarching feel of
like he is controlling everything, even though it looks like he isn't. And ultimately we see that that's basically Four Cities. But his entire belief system and what he is and how he thinks is simply staggering.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic villain, if you want to call him that.
Yeah,
Because,
is he a villain?
Yeah.
You can see...
He's so convincing, and that's what's so great about his character. Sorry, I'm cutting it.
No, go on, yeah.
But, like, is that you completely can see why people bought into his idea
Absolutely.
and his ideals and his, everything he believes. Why people went down there with him. That's like a big mystery as well. Is like, okay...
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
He made this city under the sea happen, which is crazy by itself. But how did he get people to actually move and live down there with him? And it's because he's a very convincing man.
He is. And perhaps my favourite thing about him ultimately is as well, he's a fucking hypocrite. And to watch and to find audio logs and to kind of realise... Oh man, for all his free this, free that, man, the bloke, yeah, which is why Atlas rose to power inevitably, and his side of things, ultimately, the whole reason why Rapture falls apart is because he was scared. Ryan was scared. We admit it, of Fontaine's influence. And obviously shut down Fontaine Fisheries, which was against everything that he said Rapture stands for. Which is free commerce, free this, be what you want to be this beast and all that. And I know there was smuggling going on and there was bad stuff going on, all that kind of thing. But again, isn't that allowed in Rapture? Wouldn't that be allowed if it's free this and free that?
Yeah, I mean,
and no longer,
if you're not under the thumb of the man or whatever, you should be free to do what you want in the city, right? But that doesn't work. That works in theory, but when you give human beings like the free reign to do whatever they want, chaos ensues, and his poor Rapture doesn't end up too good in the end. Neither does he either. Of course, but okay, my next one is I love the plasmids and vigors, the abilities you get given in Bioshock. There are many abilities at your disposal by going to everyone, but they're all individually really fun in their own way. I mean, some you use more than others, of course. One of my personal favourites is the murder of crows, just because I just think that's really cool to just like spawn this like flock of crows and have them like devour an enemy. Like that's cool. But...
So yeah, I'm a traditionalist in that. I just enjoy the standard plasmids, your fire, your electric, and stuff like that. Ultimately, keep it simple.
But yeah, I mean, they could have just given you only guns to play around with and melee weapons, but they also give you these like almost magical abilities and just
See, I will always praise plasmids, but I'm not going to go too much into vigors because that pops up on another list.
Okay.
Right, my second last one is Bioshock 1. So it's not a survival horror game or a horror game per se. It ultimately is an action game, an FPS, so to speak. However, there's one section in the original Bioshock where it really decides to lay on the horror. And it works. And it's the Dr. Steinman section, the surgeon. So he's a surgeon who basically, I guess, went mad and decided that facelifts weren't enough. You should be able to change your entire body, even if you didn't really want to. And it's a great audio log where he kind of does that to someone, and she realizes what he's doing when he starts talking about changing everything on her. And for example, when you reach his room where you're going to fight him as a boss, like the lights switch on one by one, and you see like people splayed up on the walls.
Yeah, it's really creepy. I remember.
Yeah, he's. I think that segment is the only really horror part.
There's something terrifying about like a power mad surgeon because they have he has the power and ability to do those kind of procedures and stuff, and it's kind of something really terrifying about someone being able to do that.
Well, it takes advantage as well of people's insecurities and certain things. It kind of reminds me of a TV show like something like Nip Tuck or something like that, and how things could occur in that because people were so paranoid or so thinking about whether their nose was misshapen or this was wrong or that was wrong.
He preys upon those insecurities. Yeah, it's very creepy. But yeah, I would say Bioshock, like, it's obviously an action game first and foremost, but I think you could consider it in the horror genre, like at least as a subgenre.
What can I do with this one, Aphrodite? She won't stay still! I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong! That one, too fat! This one, too tall! This one, too symmetrical! And now, what's this, guys? An intruder! He's ugly! 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 Ugly!
I think at first, I think eventually, particularly probably the third act after
obviously
kindly.
It's like anything, like when you you're fighting splicers and stuff, and they're quite
yeah.
and stuff.
Like you're first dealing with a spider splicer, it's done with creepiness and then reappearing and disappearing and on the roof.
Obviously,
and
as
stuff
time
like
goes on, and you're like slaughtering splicer after splicer, it loses that. But I think it's at least a subgenre.
Cool. One more.
We've touched on it already, but just as a whole, again, the locations of Rapture and Columbia, like I won't talk about it too much because we already have, but I just think they're both so creative and atmospheric, So as a concept alone, a city beneath the sea and one in the clouds, it seems so simplistic, and it's one thing to think up those ideas, to be like, oh, there's this and that, and but to actually make that work so effectively, and I think they're great.
No, I agree. They're iconic worlds. Rapture maybe more than Columbia. But I think, like in gaming history, it's gonna be remembered like in the way we do Midgard from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I just feel like this still doesn't get as much appreciation as it deserves almost.
Well, here's the thing. Researching this, I needed some help with the hate ones. I sort of went to Google and was like, what do other people particularly hate and stuff like that, and get an idea. And I started coming across thread after thread of people going, "Whoa, it's not as good as this," and all that. When you're thinking, what are you talking about?
I think you'll probably find that with anything, even if something is like, how can you possibly dislike it? Like,
I once saw a thread where someone would describe The Witcher 3 as 1 out of 10 and started listing reasons, and I was just like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that kind of
at that
level
point,
of madness.
You just clearly are just not a fan of like the medium of gaming,
Yeah, well, you just want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But... Well, my last one, it's really straightforward and simple. I guess and I'll tell you ahead of time, it's gonna be contradicted on the hate one as well. But I do love that it's a series that hasn't been murdered. It hasn't been overdone. We literally have Bioshock 1, Bioshock 2, and a lot of people separate that one anyway. And then we've got Infinite, and that is all we have, other than DLCs here and there. There's no... think of your Assassin's Creed and all that. There's no longevity. And you can say, well, Irrational Games shut down and all that, but no one's picked up that IP. No one's tried to use it. And even when Irrational Games was open, they didn't go game after game after game after game after game. They could have done. They could have done a lot more, and they didn't. We'll get on to negatives for a reason on that front. But on a positive side, it's like it's comforting. It's like oh, okay, cool. Those games are infamous because of this. And because we haven't got. Yeah. Bioshock 4, Bioshock 5,
I think that speaks a lot about the quality of the games, because more often than not, when something is not great, that's usually the thing that gets sequel after sequel after sequel, because they're trying to improve upon what came before and try and make it better. But like with Bioshock, that you said there's only the 3 games, and it's because they're so great. They're like, how do you possibly improve upon that? Because really, that should be the only reason to make a sequel, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a game like The Last of Us. Like a lot of people were screaming, don't make a sequel because you can't top it. It's like a 10 out of 10. How do you make a game that's better than it? You can't improve upon it. Leave it as a standalone thing. Don't touch it. I think a similar feeling is with Bioshock.
I agree.
How do you really improve upon what came before? You can't. We've seen them attempt it before. Bioshock 2.
Yeah.
It is a really good game, but it doesn't touch the first and third game.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There we go. There's our 10 things we love about Bioshock. As always, we've got the 10 things we hate about Bioshock, so make sure you check that out as well. That'll be up soon. Thank you for watching.